Tonight, new details on what brought out flashbangs and armored vehicles to a car lot on the north side. Officials say more than 150 undocumented immigrants were arrested.
The drug cartels are waging war in America, and it's now time for America to wage war on the cartels.
Federal authorities have carried out one of the largest and most aggressive drug crime takedowns ever directed at Venezuelan organized crime operating inside the United States. In a sweeping, months-long investigation, the FBI, DHSI, ICE, and Texas DPs teamed up to dismantle what officials describe as a fortified cartel outpost hidden inside a San Antonio nightclub complex. The raid, part of a new multi-agency initiative, was launched after extensive intelligence linked the site to TRNDR, the exceptionally violent Venezuelan syndicate known internationally for its cartel-style brutality and paramilitary structure. Homeland Security confirmed that the operation was tied specifically to the gangs. Tren de Aragua, Tren de Aragua U.S. Expansion Network. The action, codenamed Operation Nightfall, began at 2 a.m. when tactical teams surrounded the building, severed electricity, sealed exits, and breached the primary entrance under the cover of flashbangs and dense smoke. Inside, agents were met with immediate chaos, crowds scattering, gunshots echoing, and cartel operatives desperately attempting to destroy phones, computers, and cash ledgers before they could be seized. By sunrise, over 140 undocumented migrants were detained, many identified as members or collaborators of Tren de Aragua, a gang Homeland Security now ranks among the most dangerous foreign criminal groups to have infiltrated U.S. soil. The raid unfolded just hours after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that former President Trump could expedite deportations of Venezuelan criminal migrants through the Alien Enemies Act, allowing federal authorities to relocate high-risk gang members to a mega prison in El Salvador. Officials said the nightclub, hidden behind tinted glass, neon lighting, and false storefronts, operated as a command bunker for human trafficking, money laundering, extortion, and narcotics distribution. Investigators emphasized that this takedown wasn't triggered by the nightclub itself. It grew out of a much broader network. For nearly a year, federal analysts tracked suspicious cash flows between Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio linked to Venezuelan nationals who illegally crossed the border and embedded themselves inside U.S. cities. Those movements were eventually traced to Tren de Aragua, a gang born in Venezuela's notorious Tocaron prison, infamous for fusing cartel operations with military-style violence. Once inside the United States, the syndicate infiltrated migrant shelters, construction job hubs, and Latin nightlife venues, using legitimate businesses as camouflage for illicit activity. The San Antonio establishment, located less than a mile from the American Resource Center (ARC), became the gang's operational stronghold in Texas. Surveillance teams observed high-value targets arriving nightly in blacked-out SUVs with duffel bags stuffed with currency and narcotics. Residents reported hearing bursts of automatic gunfire on weekends, followed by SUV convoys disappearing down alleys. When federal command authorized the strike, agents moved with military-grade precision. More than 200 officers from the FBI, HSI, ICI, CBP, and Texas DPS deployed from staging areas across San Antonio. Overhead, CBP aircraft maintained aerial surveillance as ground units closed the perimeter. At 2:03 a.m., a calculated explosive breach blew open the club's sidewall while primary assault teams entered from the front, intercepting armed suspects attempting to escape through hidden corridors. Inside the sprawling structure, agents located multiple holding rooms, counterfeit ID labs, secret storage spaces, and a weapons cache that included rifles, modified handguns, and submachine guns. Digital forensic teams secured phones and hard drives believed to contain encrypted links to gang command elements operating in Venezuela and Colombia. Federal authorities later confirmed that the nightclub functioned as a recruitment and coercion center, luring vulnerable migrants with promises of housing and employment, only to force them into trafficking networks controlled by Tren de Aragua enforcers. One senior DHS investigator described the action bluntly. This wasn't just a raid. This was the removal of a foreign criminal headquarters operating in plain sight. Officials said the operation should serve as a warning to cities across the southern U.S. The San Antonio infiltration was not an isolated case. It demonstrated how deeply foreign crime syndicates have embedded themselves inside American communities. Homeland Security now classifies Tren de Aragua as a top-tier transnational threat, and federal leaders confirmed that this is only the opening strike in a forthcoming nationwide sweep targeting foreign gang sanctuaries built inside U.S. cities. Behind the scenes, the San Antonio raid was the result of a lengthy federal probe. In early 2024, the FBI's Transnational Organized Crime Division and HSI's Human Trafficking Task Force began tracking the gang's footprint after a string of violent kidnappings and robberies across Texas revealed a distinct signature Venezuelan crews using automatic rifles, military-style coordination, and coded Spanish slang, unique to the gang. Investigators traced these events to stash houses along Interstate 35, but it was the San Pedro Avenue nightclub that emerged as the central hub. Located near a major migration corridor, the site served as both a recruitment funnel and financial nerve center for the gang's operations. Federal analysts determined that traffickers funneled migrant laborers through the building and then coerced them into sex trafficking, narcotics distribution, and forced labor under debt bondage threats. By the time the takedown was approved, the nightclub had been reinforced with metal barricades, interior checkpoints, and armed guards, a cartel fortress masquerading as nightlife. As Operation Nightfall commenced, the scene resembled a battlefield. Just before 2 a.m., FBI tactical units, ICERO officers, and Texas DPS strike teams positioned themselves within a 1-mile radius. Snipers took rooftop positions while CBP helicopters illuminated the area with floodlights. With the breach order executed, explosive charges blasted open to side entrances as agents stormed into the building under heavy resistance. Smoke engulfed the interior as panicked patrons surged toward exits, some unarmed, others carrying illegal weapons. Tactical teams swept room to room, detaining suspects and moving civilians out. In total, more than 550 individuals were found inside. 140 were undocumented, and over 30 were directly linked to Tren de Aragua's Texas operations. Agents secured 12 firearms, including altered AR-15 rifles, and seized numerous encrypted phones believed to contain financial records, trafficking logs, and communication channels tied to overseas gang leadership. What investigators discovered after securing the compound exposed just how deeply the gang's influence had penetrated. Beneath the nightclub's main stage, agents uncovered a hidden basement designed as a fully operational cash processing center. Inside, bundles of U.S. currency were stacked, shrink-wrapped, labeled with Venezuelan codes, and prepared for transport. Laptops linked to offshore servers revealed digital money transfers routed through Chinese crypto exchanges before being funneled into shell companies in Colombia and Panama, exactly matching Tren de Aragua's signature laundering blueprint across South America. Agents also recovered boxes of fake identification cards, forged immigration documents, and trafficking contracts drafted in Spanish and Portuguese. Several women rescued from the basement told federal officers that they had been lured into the United States with false promises of honest work, only to be trapped inside the nightclub's underground rooms and forced to pay protection money to gang overseers. They ran it like a corporation, every dollar tracked, every victim accounted for, one HSI investigator explained. Federal prosecutors now believe the San Antonio site was only one node in a far larger national network stretching across multiple states. From Miami to Phoenix, digital evidence recovered from phones and computers links the Texas branch directly to Tren de Aragua operatives, guiding migrant routes throughout Latin America, coordinating with Mexican cartels for safe passage and logistical support. Officials warn that the gang's expansion into the United States represents the globalization of Venezuela's criminal underworld and enterprise, not limited to narcotics, but trafficking in people, weapons, counterfeit documents, stolen goods, intimidation, and fear. The organization thrives by embedding itself within migrant communities and masking criminal operations inside humanitarian channels. The FBI's Joint Task Force says this raid marks the first major disruption of that model. They were building a shadow economy right under our noses, one federal agent said. Tonight, that shadow economy collapsed. Federal officials now describe the San Antonio assault as a defining moment in America's campaign against foreign criminal infiltration. According to the Department of Homeland Security, the raid was only one component of Operation Nightfall, a nationwide initiative aimed at dismantling transnational crime groups linked to trafficking, cartel economies, and potential terrorist affiliates. Senior officials confirmed that the San Antonio hit was synchronized with several smaller, simultaneous raids in Houston, Miami, and Phoenix. The coordinated timing was deliberate, a nationwide strike intended to cripple the gang's communication systems, finances, and logistics in a single night. Inside the FBI's San Antonio Command Center, digital maps glowed with active pings as fleeing suspects attempted to escape the perimeter. By sunrise, agents had executed more than a dozen follow-up searches across the region, seizing narcotics, forged passports, and financial records tying the Texas cell to criminal operations reaching as far as New Jersey. This was never just a nightclub raid, said a DHS official. This was a precision operation against a foreign paramilitary network hiding behind civilian cover. To grasp the scale of the takedown, investigators point to Tren de Aragua's international footprint. Originating inside Venezuela's notorious Tacran prison, the group evolved from a prison extortion ring into a multinational criminal organization operating in at least 8 countries including Chile, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Mexico, and now the United States. Tren de Aragua functions as a hybrid cartel militia, managing human smuggling routes, controlling migrant shelters, coordinating narcotics transport with Mexican cartels, and embedding operatives directly into migrant flows. This strategy allows them to bypass security checkpoints and blend seamlessly into legitimate migration patterns. Once inside the United States, gang operatives quickly establish new identities using forged documents, open shell companies, and launder proceeds through used car lots, construction businesses, and local real estate markets. Federal analysts now confirmed that the gang's U.S. branch had been active for more than a year, using Texas as a strategic headquarters for recruitment, trafficking, and interstate expansion. For residents living near the San Antonio club, the raid brought an end to months of fear. Locals had long reported suspicious activity, frequent nighttime gunfire, blackout-tinted windows, and convoys of foreign vehicles slipping in and out of the property. Many nearby business owners admitted they were afraid to report the activity, worried about retaliation. What agents found inside confirmed their silent suspicions: a fortified trafficking compound operating in plain sight, where victims were held, coerced, and cycled through fake employment pipelines. Several of those rescued are now receiving federal protection and medical care. Homeland Security officials confirmed that many victims had been deceived with promises of housing and jobs, only to be forced into criminal labor under threats of violence. These weren't criminals, an ICE agent explained. They were captives of a gang pretending to be their rescuers. As news of the raid spread nationwide, political tensions surged. Some immigration activists accused federal authorities of excessive force, while Texas officials praised the operation as a critical victory against foreign criminal syndicates. In Washington, however, federal leaders delivered a unified message: this was only the beginning. The Department of Justice confirmed that Operation Nightfall will expand across states with large populations of undocumented Venezuelan migrants. A federal spokesperson described the mission as a sweeping effort to reclaim American neighborhoods infiltrated by organized foreign networks. Officials say more arrests are imminent, and intelligence collected from the San Antonio operation is already generating leads in Florida and California. Tren de Aragua thought they could convert migrant routes into criminal highways, a senior FBI analyst said, but the United States just shut those highways down. All seized cash, vehicles, and properties will be processed under federal forfeiture laws. Deportation proceedings for named U.S. offenders are already underway. For federal agencies, this operation signals a new era of tight coordination between ICE, and the FBI, an emerging strategy for combating hybrid foreign criminal groups embedded within American infrastructure. This is the enforcement model for the next decade, a DHS official stated. These networks cross borders without hesitation. Now they're going to learn that borders can push back. Tren de Aragua is not merely a cartel or a gang, it is a spreading criminal contagion, crossing borders one by one. And in San Antonio, that contagion finally encountered resistance powerful enough to stop it in its tracks.